So this is a test of my new character emulator, or my character designer, that I've written in BASIC and a little bit of assembly language. It starts out by loading the screen that I'm going to be using as my template when I am updating the font. Uh, you'll notice how laughably slow this is. I am doing this in an emulator where I am uh, emulating the same disk speed that you would get on a normal Atari 800 or so. And it takes forever to load a full screen of characters into RAM. There's definitely some work to be done to streamline that. I could obviously have done it to loading it to RAM and then displaying it after I've loaded it, so you don't see that very slow load in, but that's a perk for later. What I've written is, you can see I've got my reticule here, my player from the player missile graphics. This is player 1 that I am moving around with the joystick. And if I hit the button on the joystick, it tells me where I have clicked on the screen. So it tells me the horizontal position, how far from the left of the screen I've clicked, the vertical position, how far from the top of the screen I have clicked, and then H-char and V-char are the horizontal and vertical character I've clicked on. So I can click anywhere from H-char 1, V-char 0. I can't get it further to the left because I've made my reticule locked to the screen, so I can't click on the leftmost character. And I can go all the way to the right and the bottom and click as far as H-char 39, V-char 23. If I click inside of this grid, it will tell me that I've clicked inside the grid, and I can actually invert. There we go. I can invert the individual pixels in the grid. These are just inverting the color of the character displayed in that center, like of the button there. So it says I've clicked in the grid in the top of the screen there, if I've clicked in the grid. If I've not clicked in the grid, it just erases that. And if I've clicked in the grid, it inverts one of these pixels. Ultimately, obviously, this is going to be a character to be displayed. The character is going to appear inside this box, slightly larger than a normal character. I'm going to use player 2 to display the character there as I edit it. So as I click in here, not only will it do this, but it'll display the character slightly larger there as I edit it in real time. My ultimate plan is to have the alternate character also appear on the top of the screen where it says clicked in grid here. It'll have the character displayed there as I edit it. That's going to require a little bit more programming because I'm going to be using display lists to have both the default Atari font, which is shown here on the right, and my edited font on the top. My next task is going to be when I click over here, it's going to load that character into this grid so that I can then manipulate it and edit it. Which is going to require a little bit more assembly language programming. I need to use assembly language because I'm going to be changing individual bits of the character, and that is hard to do in BASIC. Right now in BASIC, the code that I'm using for checking to see if I'm clicking in the grid is incredibly cumbersome and slow. I don't know if you can tell how long it takes between when I click and when it changes the color in there, but it's significant. And that's because I'm using a ridiculous 4-next loop. Let's actually take a look at it here. If I go to, I think it's, there we are. Here's our 4-next loop. It checks for 1 to 8, checks to see if I've clicked within the horizontal area of the grid, and then checks to see if I've clicked in the vertical area of the grid, and if I have, then it says clicked in grid, checks to see what character is being displayed in that grid space, inverts it, and displays that inverted character. So that's kind of a mess. That's definitely not optimal. So I need to, there's a lot that I want to be able to do here. I want to redo all of my buttons. If I run the program again, give it a couple of seconds here. La la la, it takes a while because it's loading all my assembly routines there. And then here we go, it starts loading the screen. I want all of these areas that are displayed on the screen here to be buttons, which is an entire UI element that I need to write. So instead of running a 4-next loop to see if I've clicked inside the grid, it's going to see if I've clicked inside any of these buttons here. There's going to be an array that has a list of the top left corner and bottom, or where the top left corner of the button is, how wide the button is, and how tall the button is. And then using that, I'm going to check all the buttons on the screen. So there's 64 buttons here, 8 by 8. Each of these is going to be their own little button that does its own little thing when clicked in. This area over here, where all the characters are displayed, is going to be a single button. So clicking anywhere in that should load that character, display it here, and display it here so that I can start editing it. And then these buttons here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are each going to have text in them. They don't currently have text in them because I am putting that text in a separate file and loading it in from that file. I have made the executive decision that all text displayed to the player should not be in the basic program, but should be in a separate text file for localization purposes. If you edit the text in that file, you don't have to go into basic and change anything in there. So yeah, I want to have the text for the buttons in a separate file. It'll display those buttons when it loads them into RAM. And then this is going to be, I think, new, save, load, display, options, something like that. So all of those buttons, I need to figure out how to work that whole system, where instead of having that ridiculous 4-next loop, it checks to see if I've clicked inside a button. So whenever I click, it goes through all the buttons that exist in my button array, sees, checks to see if that click is inside one of those buttons, and if it is, does whatever that button is supposed to do. So it starts a new font, or it saves the font I'm working on, or it loads a font that I've already been working on, goes to options, displays the font. That's going to swap so that all of this, instead of being the Atari default font, it's going to show the edited font there, which Could be funky if you've made that font nothing resembling English letters. Anyways, that's the progress I've made so far. Obviously, I think the next step is getting my button API working. I need to write all of that button code, and that's going to take a little while. But yeah, fun Atari basic programming going on. And we'll see you folks next time. Thanks for watching.